Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Command List. Today on Command List, I'm deliberately going to talk about controversial shit, right? So I normally steer clear of controversial topics, or I just give my sort of, everyday working class man sort of take on it when it does come up in podcasts. But today I thought I would directly address gaming controversial topics, just head on, just as they come into my head. I've got a bit of an agenda, as you can see. Those who are watching the video podcast on the Patreon feed, they are going to see the minutes, right? So the agenda for today's meeting, as it were, right? So, like I said, I don't normally get too controversial. You hear me and Jim sometimes rattle off our opinions, and we're authentic. We don't really hide the fact that things we don't like or things we think are dumb, but we don't usually address them directly, right? So in gaming, I've listed the top sort of controversial things that are going on at the moment. They're not all political things. Some of them are just business practices, right? So some of them dovetail into each other too, right? So we'll get this kicked off. I'll start with microtransactions. For those who are watching the video, it's bright red what I'm going to go through. Microtransactions and DLC. So microtransactions are a bit of a hotbed topic. There are a lot of companies who do some pretty sketchy shit. Some of my favorite franchises are very much guilty of it. So take Dead or Alive, for example. I was going through Dead or Alive 5's DLC the other day, and what pissed me off about this particular example I'm going to give is that there were free costumes, and then those same costumes were also for purchase. So you could either download them for free or you could purchase them. If they're free, they should take the purchase option down. People don't need to be confused and accidentally pay for stuff that's free, right? Having 60 different costumes, all $2 each, is scummy, right? It's really scummy. And as much as I like Dead or Alive, this is fucking the kind of thing that sank the franchise, right? So it's kind of dead at the moment, and this is one of the reasons why. It's not the only reason why, but I think it's the main reason why, right? So you could go through and download them all separately for free, like I did, or you can pay for them. But really, the fact that they're free means that they should get away. On the Xbox shop, they should take away the purchase option and just bundle them together so you can just download them all in one go. That's what an honest company with integrity would do, in my opinion. I do like Koei Tecmo. I like what they do. I like Ninja Gaiden, and I like their stuff. But this is the kind of shit that I hate to see, right? The sexualization of the content, whatever. Dead or Alive's always been that way. Games are like that. Sex sells. Good-looking characters, regardless of whether they're, male or female, is a good thing too. I don't necessarily think you have to be unrealistic and make everyone like that, but generally people want the best versions of themselves when they make creative characters and stuff like that. And making characters ugly or weird looking for the sake of it to sort of appear woke, quote unquote, is not something I'm a fan of. Sorry, just a second. I just have to modify something. Light's getting through. It's unusually in kind of shitty weather here, and the sun's actually coming in today for a change. So hopefully that did disrupt the feed, the audio too much. But anyway, like I said, the sexualization, you see that Western developers and American games particularly are toning this down. You can see the difference between MKX and MK11, for example. Not necessarily against it, but I don't feel like you should tone that down just cause. You see the Japanese developers never do that. They hypersexualize the fuck out of everything and they're going gangbusters. I think they kind of go over the top, to be honest, but, it's their art, they produce it, and they're selling their games, right? So I'm kind of like, it makes sense to make protagonists and even antagonists good looking at times. I get it. I don't think you should have to deliberately make every character munted looking just to appease a few people who complain about it, right? This body image thing, it's kind of become a double standard in ways I get every male character has unrealistic muscles and looks like they're on steroids. People tend to not talk about that, but then they talk about a woman's face being too symmetrical, for example. I mean, it's kind of stupid. I think you should just, if they want to make Melina have giant fucking boobs in MKX and then they change it in MK11, I don't really see why they changed it. I don't get it. I don't get the point. I don't see why they would make a change like that just to shut a few people up, right? Having said that, I also don't think a game succeeds only on that. Dead or Alive, for example, is all about sexualization of the characters, but it's a good game in its own right. I think it's combat. I think it's to the detriment of this franchise at times. But I think Mortal Kombat's kind of reaction to this is kind of like not healthy either, right? They've gone too far the other way. So I think people need to sort of chill out on this. I think this came up a lot with Stellar Blade. Let the developer make how they like. At the end of the day, what's the harm in having a good-looking female character? Yes, it is unrealistic. I get it. But so is having giant muscles on all the male characters, right? And it's a video game. It's generally just unrealistic. So, that's a bit of a sidetrack on the microtransactions. But loot boxes, all that shit, it's like gambling. And I do think they need to legislate against it. These games don't need this kind of thing. Their sports games particularly do this. Just sell a one-time upfront DLC, like a season pass for a fighting game, for the new updated rosters. You don't have to keep making loot boxes for special player fucking packs and skins and stuff like that. Just make it all unlockable or all purchasable in one go and make it affordable. Don't fucking make it like gambling. And don't make it like 50 different individual purchases. I think a lot of these free-to-play third-person shooter-type games, this is how they make money. I get it, but it's not the only way you can make money. It really isn't. And if you have to pay a subscription and it's a modest cost to pay the subscription to play online, that's fine. I get servers aren't free. But for whatever reason, Steam tends to not do this. So, I get companies have to make money, but some of these microtransactions and DLC that's for stuff that's already in the game, but they deliberately put behind a wall, that's fucking scummy too. If the content exists at launch, it shouldn't cost more. It should become part of the game. I just think that's obvious, and that's the kind of shit I hate. So, and just paying to win. You shouldn't be able to pay to get a stronger gun or pay to get a stronger I just feel like that defeats the spirit of competition or paying to level up quicker. I mean, come on. You might as well, you'll be a mobile game. You'll be a fucking, like one of these ones you see advertised on YouTube, right? It's kind of fucking stupid, and I hate it. Right, and I think a lot of people are with me on this one. So, microtransactions are obviously an insidious part of gaming, and I believe that you should pay for a season pass when they add a bunch of characters and stages and put some effort. I get it, this shit ain't free. I understand that. But it has gone a little ridiculous. So, I believe in paying a fair price for a good game. I don't believe in paying $80 or more now, and then 3 months later, there's DLC. I think that's fucking ridiculous. I really do. It's not acceptable. And fighting games are not immune. They do. Yes, I said I like the season pass model. I think it's fairer. But Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, they'll fucking do this. Quan Chi was in Mortal Kombat 1. But then he was an extra character later. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. It really is. But then you see stuff like the Floyd fight. And it costs money. So that was actually a good thing they did there. And to give the NetherRealm Studios some more props for some things they do well, in Mortal Kombat 11, they just added a whole story expansion for free. So it's not all awful, but there is a lot of insidious fucking scummy shit that goes on. Right. Box ticking, wokeness. Are games too woke? Yeah, I think they are. I think games are a little woke, particularly Western games. I'm not worried about it too much because what we've seen with woke games is they fail. And when they try to cancel games for not being too woke, it doesn't work. So although, yes, I would generally say the trend has been to sort of box tick and go, we need a this, we need a trans, we need a black, we need a this, we need a that, and just go through and tick boxes rather than make quality product, that fails every time. Do I expect feudal Japan to be ethnically diverse? No. Do I expect medieval Europe to be ethnically diverse? No. Do I expect fucking Africa to be ethnically diverse? No. I expect games to reflect reality. If it's a modern day game in a city like London, I do expect it to be ethnically diverse because modern day London is ethnically diverse, right? But I think box ticking to get special fucking approval and what's that? Is it Sweet Baby or whatever they're fucking called to come and consult and tell you that you got to do this and to make your game this and that? I don't agree with that. I do agree with accessibility options for disabled people. I do 100% agree with stuff like that. I'm not ever going to be critical of a game for adding some of those options in to make it more accessible to players with, say, one hand or who can't see very well or can't hear. That sort of stuff, gaming should be for as many people as you can within reason. I understand where sometimes it's not possible, but, I'm not against that kind of thing. So before anyone goes, oh, well, that's, you calling that work? No, because I feel like that's fair enough. What if I lost my sight in one eye? Which I have got some eye damage in one eye? What if I have like missing fingers? Or can't hear? Like understand accessibility, all for that. Seeing that in games, even if a non-disabled person can use that option to make the game easier, whatever, that stuff doesn't bother me too much, right? So obviously it doesn't bother me at all, and I think it's good, right? But when it comes to box ticking, and this is another thing, you see the Lady Boss sequel, right? The Lady Boss sequel is where they just bootstrap and fucking piggyback a successful male protagonist-led franchise and just replace the main character with a female. You don't need to do that. It's very lazy. You don't need to do that to have strong female characters and protagonists. For example, one of my favorite sort of examples of this is you take Celeste. Celeste, I would call myself I'm neutral on the whole trans thing, right? I think it goes too far. I think people get bent out of shape over too much over it sometimes. I think there's overreactions on both sides of the political spectrum of this. I don't think that having trans women in female sport is fair. That I think that's a reasonable position given the success they tend to have when they enter female sports. But I also don't care that much if the work coming out is quality. Like I take a game like Celeste where I believe the lead developer is trans. That's a solid game. It's fun to play. Love it. Great game. I would play that. I play that all the time. My kids love it. It's a great platformer. They didn't have to take a male protagonist, build a series, and then swap her out. They just started with a female protagonist. Skullgirls, female protagonist. Dead or Alive, female protagonist. Yes, I know Dead or Alive uses a lot of sex to sell it. Tomb Raider were the same. But you don't need to do this. So like what Hades has done where they've just took a dump on the first game story and just lazily just replaced it with a female character who isn't even mentioned in the first game, was just lazy. I love Hades as a game. The story is fantastic, but I think a full refresh, different setting, Norse gods, Roman gods, Japanese folklore, anything like that to replace it instead of just going back into the same universe and then putting female Zagreus in. I think I was just lazy. I'm sorry if that upsets the developers. I love your work, Supergiant, but I feel like that was lazy. I just do. So that might upset some people, but you see that a lot in games. And sometimes, it works. It's a natural thing. It makes sense to, explore a different character, a female character. But in a lot of senses, it just smacks of obvious box ticking, right? So, like I said, this could be a bit hit or miss. It depends. But I feel like whenever a franchise does that, that's lazy. You don't have to do that to make a strong female protagonist. You simply don't. There's never been a male Samus, right? There's just Samus. I know you couldn't really tell in the first games because it was fucking 8-bit and all that shit, but doesn't matter. That's the protagonist of the series. People love it. It's a great series, right? So I feel like that's often lazy at, bootstrapping or piggybacking or however you want to describe it. I don't see the point. I really don't. So it's unnecessary. So the wokeness and box ticking tends to detract. It gets too many people involved in making decisions. It's like a platypus, right? Who fucking designed a platypus? It's just elements of everything. It's sometimes committees are not good, right? It ruins the vision. And like I said, just ticking boxes rather than making a fun, enjoyable game, fucking stupid, right? A story should be good on its own merits. It doesn't matter if it's ethnically diverse or not ethnically diverse. Like I said, you don't have to have an ethnically diverse cast in a non-ethnically diverse setting. It's, for example, I'm watching this Chief of War series about Hawaii. They're all Hawaiian. Shock, right? I mean, it's an interesting show. It's fun to watch. It's good on its own merits. It's all in Hawaiian mostly. I don't see why you would... And there are obviously contact with Europeans and stuff like that in that show, but you don't have to just artificially insert that into things to make it good or to represent everyone. You just represent them in their own setting, right? So LGBTQ games, they're fine, obviously. They've got the right to make games and express their artistic visions. And if it doesn't appeal to a broad audience because because they are a minority, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as the people who do it love doing it and it makes enough money to continue their work, fine. But if it doesn't succeed because you try to mass market it to everyone and it doesn't appeal to everyone, that's business, right? So you can see this with Assassin's Creed Shadows. It didn't work. People weren't interested. So, and it's just a shitty Ghost of Tsushima. So, yeah. So the box ticking thing, like I said, it just be authentic, make a story you want, and if it catches and the gameplay's great, it will take off. It does not matter. People don't care that much. At the end of the day, if a game sucks, no one will play it, or they'll stop playing it. So the box ticking, I feel like, is ending because studios are going under because they're focusing too much on looking good instead of being good, right? And this is often the virtue signaling coming in, right? And that's why it's called virtue signaling, because you're signaling virtue instead of actually being virtuous, right? So, again, like I said, I like games from LGBTQ people. I like games from, I don't even care what color the people are, to be honest. I have no idea. I mean, a lot of the games I buy are Japanese. I don't buy them because white people make them, and I don't buy them because Japanese people make them. I make them because they're good. And but having said that, I have noticed Eastern developers are kind of knocking it out the park at the moment, and the Western developers are not. And I believe it's just loss of focus and bloat, right? So, and that leads us on to AAA gaming budgets and development team size, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen. It's awful to see people lose their job. It really is. I've lost my job in a mass layoff once before. It's difficult. When you sack someone, you sack their family too. It is important to remember when you're a manager and you have to fire someone that you're not just firing that person, and not to take it lightly. Not to piss in their pocket and tell them it's raining and just say, oh, you'll find another job. No, be honest. We have to let you go. Otherwise, we can't keep the company going. Just tell the truth to people. So a lot of these positions, there's a great book called Bullshit Jobs. They talk about how this happens and you end up with larger teams than you need. Again, Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to get a bit of a mention here because of the length of the credits. Credits shouldn't go that long for that game. I don't care how much money you spent on it. That's too many people involved with the game, right? It doesn't need to be that big. There are plenty of independent games that polish up just as good. You've got Clair Obscur and you've got Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight and Clair Obscur cost a fucking fraction of the budget of something like Assassin's Creed or what's that other shitty one? Dragon Age Veilguard. It's got a coherent story. You can see the care and the passion of the people who made the game, and that's the main thing. It looks like a AAA game, Clair Obscur. It does, right? You don't need a huge team. In fact, I think the huge team's idea and including too many people and making it too big and trying to be like this giant industry, which it is a big industry. It's bigger than film. I get it. But you don't need to hire fucking 20,000 people to make a game. You don't. It doesn't require that. It simply doesn't. So a lot of these layoffs are really sad because there are people who are going to lose their livelihoods. They think they have jobs that matter, and maybe they do, because often there are victims in these downsizings and layoffs that actually do a lot of work, and their positions are not valued until they take them away. As you can, if you give them the gift of missing you don't realize how important something is till you don't have it, right? So often that happens, and there's casualties in this mass layoffs, but generally, I think I'm not surprised. When I look at some of these credits and the quality of the game, I'm not surprised these teams are not financially stable. So it's a bit of a unpredictable, chaotic industry, and I understand the need for unions and things. Unions are actually very important. I come from a trades background and I became an engineer. I understand how important unions are to protecting workers and having rights. It's not just for wages, it's for safety as well. So I'm I'm this sort of centrist guy where I do have some left-leaning things I agree with on issues. I'm issues by issues kind of guy, right? So, and I have become a little more conservative as I've gotten older, but it's more, like I said, I don't think you need to be anti-free speech because you love free healthcare, for example. One's a right-wing issue now, one's a left-wing issue. I agree with both of those things, So it's one of those things where I see this AAA and people losing their jobs and everyone's like, isn't that horrible? They need unions. They need to protect. Yes. But also, if the company don't make money, it don't make money. Right? At the end of the day, they need to be solvent. So that is what a company is. You don't give them your loyalty the way you give them your loyalty to it's not a football team. It's not your family. Like that, it's work. It's transactional. And it's very rare to get a company that cares. It's very rare because a company is not a person. It can't care. A person can care, right? So often when I've had companies that I felt like care, it's because my boss cares, right? So these layoffs are awful, but in my opinion, necessary at the moment. So, and if you don't like the cost of games, don't buy them. Wait for them to go on sale. They always do, right? Just wait. They go on sale. Make use of Game Pass. Make use of your PS Plus monthly games. You don't have to spend a lot of money to enjoy good games. You really don't. Even Hollow Knight was like $30 when it came out, Australian, like the new one, brand new, bang, $30. That's affordable. That's why I have that spin-off podcast called Ultimate Frugal, right? Gaming is expensive, but it doesn't have to be. And there are plenty of old retro games and cheap games, independent games that are far better than any AAA game. So. And not owning your games, right? This is another pet peeve of mine. I recently had an experience with EA and all my Command & Conquer games, trying to get them back. They won't give me a download code for a digital version of the game. I can't get the old one running. I feel like I still own the property. Games aren't as forever as we thought they were. If the hardware goes obsolete, you're fucked, right? It includes PC gaming. You have to then get disk images and virtual machines and stuff to get games to work, or buy old-fashioned, monitors and retro tink type shit to get it to work. But at the end of the day, I think this petition and these laws that they want in Europe and the UK for continued support and owning your game, I think is a good thing. I think sometimes people try to shit on it. These companies try to subvert it and say, oh, we can't make money. You can make these things last. You can hand over custody of a server. You can make all the offline single-player stuff playable. You can do all that. If it's an old game, why the fuck do you care? Right? The Internet Archive is very important for preserving games, and I hate that Nintendo and that some of those companies constantly attack them. Right? Because, to be fair, people need that sort of thing. Right? If they're not going to preserve games themselves and make them playable for the future, even though you pay for it, it's, just sneaking it in a little bit of fine print doesn't, it doesn't pass the pub test to me. If you were to ask someone in the pub, as we say, the pub test over here, it sounds scummy, and it is. So not owning your games. So hopefully I haven't pissed too many people off. And if I have, look, these are just my opinions. They're not just my opinions. Lots of people share them. And I kind of don't try to overreact too much to things. Like I said, are games too woke at the moment? Probably. But am I worried about it? No. Because ultimately, the game sucks, no one will buy it. If the message pisses people off, people will break the immersion and they won't like the story. I think this is the case with some of like Dragon Age Veilguard and some of those. It just breaks the immersion. It just doesn't seem natural. It seems wrong. It seems fucking forced. It's clear someone's got a checklist. And when you have a checklist, people notice, right? So, but there are a lot of games that people were hard on that I don't really, it's overblown. A lot of it's overblown. And you can see when people try to cancel a game, don't work. They tried to cancel fucking Hogwarts. They tried to cancel, was it the Chinese Black Myth Wukong? That's a good game. People they don't care. They don't care. They'll play if it's a good game and they want to, and they enjoy it. They're going to play it. Simple as that, right? The money is how you express your opinion, right? You vote with your wallet, Say, that game sucks, I'm not buying it. Or that game's too expensive, I'm not buying it at the moment. Thumbs down, you buy it, right? It's not that hard. I know you don't want it. People don't want to miss out on things, but take fighting games. Plenty of great fighting games. Don't have to play the latest and greatest fighting game all the time. Take Tekken 8. Tekken 8's kind of a shit show at the moment. You'd still play Tekken 7, you know? Tekken 7's fantastic. Tekken 5's fantastic, you know? Oh, and why trying to stay on topic, this being a fighting game podcast, I'm sick of the hate for Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is here to stay. We're a wireless society. Gaming is wireless, right? Some people in the United States and Australia, they don't have access to fucking fiber optic to the house because the countries are big. Canada, the same. The countries are large. The infrastructure is expensive. Governments flip-flop and change every few years. They're not going to invest in the infrastructure. So we need to get and Japan is a small country. Korea is a small country. They can lay out they can get that infrastructure out real quick, right? So this is the kind of hate, like shaming a Wi-Fi player. Just make better netcode. Just make better netcode. Stop blaming the consumer and stop trying to shame people, because when I play on Wi-Fi sometimes, people won't blame me. It doesn't matter how good my connection is, and my connection is good. I've got fiber to the premises. It just, people drop the connection. So, you know, and you can mask it and make it look like you're on LAN. And I do, and lots of people do. So to me, that's sort of Wi-Fi discrimination. If the connection sucks, I get it. You don't want to play people with shitty connection. But you can have a shitty LAN connection and you can have a shitty Wi-Fi connection. I think we should put the pressure back on the people who make the netcode to make it more stable. They're going to offer a fighting game and have it be online and make that their main mode of play and want you to be online. They should provide the infrastructure and the software and the protocols to make it run properly. So, just my opinion. I know a lot of people are probably like, yeah, it's not that hard. Just run a cable from your router, you know. Not everyone owns their home. Some people rent. They can't just fucking drill holes through the wall. They can't just get up in the ceiling and drop stuff down through the roof. Sometimes, and some people just don't know how to do that kind of thing. So, again, stop shaming the people who are using the products. And that's another thing. Companies saying if you don't like it, it's because you're a fucking bigot or you don't. No. Make stuff people want. People will criticize you regardless. Don't read the comments. Don't focus on it too much. But also don't get up there on your soapbox and start telling everyone doesn't like it as a fuckhead. Because sometimes they're right and you need to listen. And sometimes they're just bigots and they are a fuckhead. But like a lot of criticism you see addressed by like heads of these large gaming companies is attacking the man and not the ball. They're attacking the person and not the issue, right? Like the owning your games thing, you know, or a game not being very good, or like take Tekken 8, for example, is getting a lot of hate because of it's not balanced. This is people giving their opinion. Some people are going to give an opinion in a way the message is going to be awful, they're going to be hateful and that sort of thing. But some people give the message in good faith and want you to listen. So, you know, you can't just shame your fans and you can't just listen to everything. There's too much going on out there. So, yeah, so that might be a little bit contradictory, that last sentiment. But, yeah. So, this, like I said, I wanted to deliberately address controversial stuff head on, right? So, whether you agree with me or not, that's up to you, you know. And I don't expect anyone to 100% agree with me, and I don't agree with 100% of anything anyone else, right? I might agree with 80% of one person and 30% of another, right? If I can't agree 100% with my own family and my own friends, then how the fuck would I agree with 100% with some random stranger on the other side of the world? People just need to be more realistic in their dialogue and discussions with other people and accept that you don't have to always agree on shit to get along with people or to have a good time with people or to have a discussion with people. I mean, one of the questions I think is worth asking yourself is, have I changed my mind on anything recently? Because a thinking person does change their mind on things. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you think about something over and over and over again your whole life and you never change your mind. Whatever. But if you are thinking about things and reacting to what's going on in the moment, you should have differing opinions over time. Sometimes you'll swap back and forth. But a mind that changes is a mind that works, right? And this is again, to end on a very funny, controversial joke. Women have cleaner minds because they change them more often, right? There you are. So hopefully people take this with the spirit that it's meant. But if not, go fuck yourself. Don't smash controllers. I love you all.